Welcome to Bleav in Arizona State, episode 71. I'm your host, Brandon Clark, alongside my guy, Evan Reiser here. Bleav episode 71. You know, we got some time before the Baylor game, and Fridays are normally kind of our laid-back shows, Evan. And we like to usually do something like a what's more likely, but we're going to kind of take the game aside from that. But before we begin this episode, make sure you're following us on all social media platforms at Bleav in ASU, BLEAV in ASU, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all have been crazy. We've been loving to post our daily clips on there, and make sure you're listening to wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, SiriusXM, and Apple. We're around anywhere in your car, just on your phone, we are there. But this next guest, I'm super, super excited to have on the show, Evan. I mean, this is a man of the people, one of our loving sponsors, and someone that we're always just down just to shed a light on someone. And outside, Evan, of supporting the Sun Devils, I know one thing that we love most, it's supporting local businesses. And right in the heart of Mill Avenue, there's only been one go-to spot for Sun Devil fans for over 30 years, family-owned, alumni-run since 1992. Always bringing something new to the table, like you can see with his shirt right there with the Pukin Rally. You can only get it one place and one place only, and that's Cactus Sports. But we're thrilled to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Cactus Sports owner, Troy Scoma. Troy, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having us, guys. We're really excited to be here.
Well, we appreciate you. You've been nothing but great to us. Obviously, have been a staple on Mill Avenue. I just kind of wanted to ask you, you've seen this Sun Devil fan base and student culture evolve over the years, but how has it been just since Kenny Dillingham has gotten there? And I just want to say, just with the rise of NIL, as we all know, how has that impacted the business? What's going on? We want to hear all about Cactus Sports here on Bleav in Arizona State.
I think it was a much needed breath of fresh air when he got hired. Graham too. Graham getting hired shortly after. It was really neat hearing his whole "Activate the Valley" slogan that he started from day one. Just hearing him talk about that made me want to run through a wall, for the guy. And then shortly after, I Bleav it was 2 summers ago, is when we started making some Activate the Valley products and trying to be different, not just like, hey, here's an Activate the Valley ASU shirt, but we built in royalties to actually go to NIL to support different sports that ASU had. And it was really cool to kind of see it. It didn't really take off the ground as fast as we wanted. I think, a lot of damage had been done to the fan base at that point. And but then to have the magical season of last year all happen and just see it all gain traction, and it was what a fun year last year was.
Troy, I got to ask. So you mentioned NIL. What is a rules change like that? How does that affect your business? Obviously, you guys have had some NIL partnerships, and now you can do some more stuff with players and really donating back to the team. How has the NIL rule affected your guys' business?
It was interesting. I mean, last year, after the Activate the Valley products, last year in October is when we really got involved in NIL for the first time, going through certain channels, because that's when we made like our own replica jersey for SCAT, and then 2 replica T-shirts, which they call jerseys.
Jerseys, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to contact like 3 different departments to make sure that I was doing everything legit. Matter of fact, at the time, it was so new that Scataboo's former agent, he thought that we had to have an agreement in place before I started selling all 3 of those items. And I remember I had showed him what they were going to look like, because I had already gotten art approved and all that. And he's like, yeah, this is so great. And And then I started taking pre-orders, and he's like, "Hey, wait, man, you can't do that. Like, we don't have an agreement yet." And so he actually had to call the NIL department with ASU, and then I had to call licensing, and they were like, "Nope, you did everything by the book. This company, they followed protocol from, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. He's going to earn this much of a royalty." And so then, we ended up talking, like, I think we took the weekend to, like, okay, let's all, like, calm down. And then we spoke on Monday. He's like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry. This is so new. I didn't really even know how it worked, but everything's great." And that's when we started taking pre-orders for that stuff. And it did, obviously, I think I've reordered those things like 3 times now.
Well, I mean, there's just so many stories I know that you have, just obviously being around for over 30 years on Mill Avenue, Cactus Sports. If you had to give me like one, what is the most memorable ASU moment that you got? It can even, you were bringing up last year. I know that can be a good answer, but anyone that you got for me, give it to me.
I don't know if it's the most memorable, but it's a fun story. So back probably before you guys were born in '96, when we went to the Rose Bowl, my brother started the store in '92, and I became his partner in '95. And we had played Nebraska and Lincoln the year prior, and they kicked the living bejesus out of us. It was 77-28 in Lincoln. And my brother flew in for that game because he was living out of state, and I was running the store. And he's like, "We're going to go to the game after we stop working, right?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to go see us get just destroyed. Like, that Nebraska team, I mean,
At the time, they won like 36 straight, right?
Yeah, I mean, that team, like, you could get a 19-0 lead even with like 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they would go, "Okay, let's stop screwing around. Touchdown, 2 field goals, boom, game winner, game over." Their fans were talking crap in the stands still up until probably the fourth quarter, until they started to realize, "Oh wow, this is going to be real." But so back to my fun story. So we win the game 19-0, first shutout in Tom Osborne's career since like 1974 or something like that. And then we rush the field, and I'm 56, and I'm still rushing the field to this day. I did every field rush last year. But my brother and I go, after we get off the field, let's go back and open up the store, and maybe if we're lucky, we can hustle and make a couple $100. So we went and opened up the store, and in case you've never heard the story, the goalpost got ripped down, and all the students carried it on their shoulders down Fifth Avenue or Fifth Street and took a right on Mill Avenue, headed to where my old store used to be next to Rula Bula. And since we were open, we had the doors open, and we got to watch the goalpost crowd surf walk all the way up to where the lake is, but the lake was a dry riverbed. And then they threw it over the Mill Avenue Bridge onto the dry riverbed, and then ASU recovered it. They cut it up into small pieces and sold the pieces for $100 a piece. And I will regret to this day that I never bought a piece of that, because I don't think anyone's ever going to sell that on eBay. I mean, why would you?
That's crazy. That's really crazy. Speaking of that, and just Mill, I know it's changed a lot over the years. With you guys, what kind of excitement did you guys see around Mill last year, especially towards the end of last year, comparatively to other seasons we've had in the last decade or so?
It was uncomparable. I mean, God, during the time after we won the Big 12 championship, like, we were literally drinking out of a fire hose. And it got to a point where I was just like, I've got to reduce my store hours because we can't handle what's going on. And so it got to a point after, like, I think 3 or 4 days, we had to stop answering the phone because we didn't have time to take calls. it was just easier for people to send in their requests via email. And so we put a voicemail on our phone basically saying, if you have inquiries, you need to email us at this email address. We reduced our store hours because we just couldn't handle the workload. And we had so many boxes of merchandise coming in every day that we would get there in the morning, like probably 2 hours before open, and we would have to carry out probably 40 to 50 boxes. I would park my Jeep in the parking lot to kind of hide having like 40 or 50 boxes outside, stacked up all outside in my parking lot with the stockroom door open because no one could move. So I mean, we literally would have people lining up to come into our store like half an hour before we opened. I had one memorable Sunday where we normally mop the store one day a week, and it's usually Sunday, and we had a massive line of people waiting to come in, and the kid who mopped, he didn't wring the mop out enough, and so it left a huge water residue on the floor, and like, we're opening in like 5 minutes. I got to get this dry. So we have a leaf blower that we blow off our sidewalk before we open. And I was literally, while customers were watching through the windows, I was leaf blowing the floor to get it to dry. So when we opened the doors, it wouldn't be wet for people to walk inside.
That's
Wow.
Number one for innovation.
Number one for innovation right there.
10 years running now?
I opened the door and looked at a couple of customers outside and literally said that line.
That is the ultimate Arizona State line. Number one in innovation. But speaking of innovation, it'll be my last question. I know, Evan, you got one more. Looking ahead, I mean, what do you guys have coming up? Obviously, I know the football season is fully in swing, but anything excited that you would like to share with the viewers that do support Cactus Sports like we do here on Bleav in Arizona State?
Two things that we made up, especially with a company called Original Retro Brand. They are one of the few companies that not only have collegiate licenses, but they have the license through the NFLPA, which is the NFL Players Association. So when a Sun Devil graduates, we can, like if I wanted to carry a Brandon Ayuk jersey, or if I wanted to carry, our ex-quarterback with the Commanders, if I wanted to carry his Jaden Daniels jersey, former Heisman, they have the license to do both. So we made up, people have been clamoring for this for years. Why doesn't Adidas make a Pat Tillman jersey in gold? They asked us to wear gold to the game, so we need a gold jersey. So we have Tillman jerseys coming in adult and youth. The adult jerseys have sewn on letters and numbers, and the kids are screen printed. And then we have the exact same thing happening for Cam Scatterville. And so we've been taking the Tillman youth jerseys already came in. We're still waiting on the adult. And then Scatterville, that design, there was a lot of kind of fighting back and forth about what design was going to be allowed. So those, we're taking pre-orders, but they're not going to be here until right before Christmas, which is good timing.
Awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on one of those Scatteraboo jerseys. That's going to be awesome. Yeah. Last question for you, Troy. I have to ask about this year's team. 2-1 right now, headed into a game at Baylor. What are your thoughts as they enter conference play? What are your thoughts on what this team can do here for the conference and what they've done in their first three?
I think from a business standpoint, so strictly speaking as a business owner, for us to lose Saturday is going to be catastrophic. So losing that close game to Mississippi State, I mean, I'm a diehard fan, guys, and I know there's a lot of diehard fans, but there's also a lot of bandwagon fans. And if you guys read any social media after that Mississippi State loss, I really think losing in the fashion we did struck a nerve on a very similar to like almost like the Peach Bowl loss. Like we had that game, and unfortunately the defense that was called gave it away. Not to say that was everything, but there were so many negative comments on social media. I mean, one guy said we should fire our coach. Like, come on, man, right? This is our guy. This is Dillingham, right? So we saw it versus Texas State having a back-to-back sellout. I can't remember the last time we had back-to-back sellouts. We had a phenomenal opening week at the store. Like, for opening week, record sales. Texas State was a ghost town. Like, game day was probably 40% less than NAU. And so I'm really worried that if we lose to Baylor, are we still in the mix for a Big 12 championship? Yeah, if we can only lose 2 conference games, there's a good chance we can be in the mix for that championship game again. But from a fan perspective and having more people jump off that bandwagon, I think starting out 2-2 would be disastrous. So that's kind of my take as like a business owner. As a fan, it's not going to be ideal, but again, I still think a two loss in the Big 12 conference team, there's still a shot to make that conference championship game, and that's where I really want to get to.
Well, we're hoping for the same thing too, not only just for Cactus Sports, but for Bleav in Arizona State. But Troy, thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate all that you do, not only for us, but for the community as well. Make sure you go check them out, Cactus Sports on Mill Avenue, 514 South Mill Avenue, Tempe, Arizona, right by the stadium. So that's kind of the drill, is that you go to Cactus Sports, go hang around Mill for a little bit, and then go head to the game, all right? That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Bannon, we already know how your morning's going to go. You're going to go out for a drink. Everybody ends up spilling the first beer on themselves. Go over there, pick yourself up a brand new shirt, and head into the game.
Exactly.
3-4 block walk.
Yeah, before that, maybe get yourself a Puke and Rally shirt, anything that you can think of. Troy, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for everything. This is Bleav in Arizona State, episode 71. I'm your host, Bannon Clark, alongside Evan Reiser. And as always, forks up.